Hey science fans! I'm Ryan from the Saskatchewan Science Centre. Over the summer I became fascinated with a movie that we're playing in the Kramer IMAX Theatre, Back From The Brink, Saved From Extinction. Back From The Brink is an amazing and positive story. It shows 3 species which were on the verge of extinction, but which were saved because of the actions of people who really cared and put their minds to it. And that got me thinking, is anything like this happening in Saskatchewan? I went looking for people who are making a difference right here at home, and that's how I met Rebecca Magnus from Nature Saskatchewan. Rebecca told me the stories of 3 species in the province. We talked about the burrowing owl, which is listed as endangered in Saskatchewan. She also told me about the peregrine falcon, which was on the verge of extinction for decades, but thanks to a lot of hard work has now been deemed not at risk. The species that really caught my attention, however, was that of the Loggerhead Shrike. This songbird is listed as threatened in Saskatchewan, but there are plans in place right now to help save this bird's habitat and to bring it back from the brink. And these efforts are making a real impact. Let's hear from Rebecca.
My name is Rebecca Magnus, and I'm the Species at Risk Manager with Nature Saskatchewan. We're a provincial non-government conservation organization in Saskatchewan that works to conserve habitat for species at risk. Nature Saskatchewan's vision is humanity in harmony with nature, and our mission is to engage and inspire people to care about and conserve our natural habitats. The Loggerhead Shrike is a migratory songbird that is listed as threatened in Saskatchewan. It's a unique songbird in that it's the only songbird with a hook beak, but does not have talons like a hawk. It is slightly smaller than a robin, and it's a gray back with a pale belly and a black eye mask, which some people call it the bandit because of its black mask. Some people also call it the butcher because of its feeding habits and its action of impaling its prey. This is unique for a songbird. Hawks and raptors will do this, but the Loggerhead Shrike does this because of their lack of talons and their need to secure their food for feeding. Now, if it's a grasshopper or a beetle or a bee, for example, they're pretty small and they can handle those pretty well with their little songbird talons, but because they don't have talons like a raptor or hawk, they take other prey like mice, voles, snakes, and they actually hook them onto barbed wire or thorny shrubs. It's called the action of impaling, and that allows them to secure their food to take off bite-sized bits. There is one other reason that they will impale prey, and that is in the springtime. The males come up about a week ahead of the females, and they will put out a big cache or a big display for the females. And then when the female comes along, she'll look and see if that display is good enough for her, she'll stick around. Traditionally, Loggerhead Shrikes were associated, like pre-settlement, they were associated with the coulees and those natural shrubby areas and wetlands of the prairies. And when that started to be plowed up and crops put in, the settlers were also putting in shelter belts at the time. And so their coulees and wetland shrubby habitat was replaced with shelter belts. So we really didn't see a large impact early settlement. It wasn't until new technology started coming out and insecticide use and more roadways that we started seeing a real decline in the population of Loggerhead Shrikes. The Loggerhead Shrikes nest at the edge of shrubby areas like the habitat we see here. There's lots of little pockets of shrubs where the adults can sit and perch on the tips and the edges of the shrubs, and they'll build their nest right there, which out in the countryside is often associated closely with roadways. And so when the young fledge first leave the nest, they're really clumsy and they're not very strong flyers. So there is that human impact there of roadkill that you would see. In the 80s, we all know about the crazy invasion of the grasshopper, the explosion of the grasshopper population. And because of the insecticides that were used to kill off those grasshoppers on crops, it in turn decimated burrowing owl and Loggerhead Shrike population because a large portion of their diet relied on grasshoppers. So we can see burrowing owl, Loggerhead Shrike numbers from right following the explosion of the grasshoppers plummet. Loggerhead Shrike being threatened in Saskatchewan means that its numbers had been recognized to decline about 85% by the early 2000s. And in 2003, a partnership was established between Nature Saskatchewan and Environment Canada to start up a program to raise awareness and work with landowners to conserve habitat, largely shelter belt habitat, with landowners and land stewards around the province. So Nature Saskatchewan started Shrubs for Shrikes in 2003 to do just that. And since then, we have engaged and have over 300 program participants conserving habitat for the Loggerhead Shrike. This is largely shelter belt habitat, but it's also native prairie habitat, because not only do they need the shrubby and the tree habitat to nest, they need that foraging habitat or that feeding habitat, which comes from the surrounding native and tame pastures. Being a part of the ecosystem, Loggerhead Shrikes have, like any species, have a part to play. They have a role in the ecosystem. And a Loggerhead Shrike in particular is a great form of, for benefit for humans, natural pest control. They help keep other populations in check. So whether that be grasshoppers, mice, voles, baby gophers, snakes, beetles, they can help with that control of those populations. And equally, they are food source for other larger wildlife like raptors and hawks and great horned owls. And while we don't want to see threatened species become prey, it's important that they are a part of the ecosystem too. For residents and for the general public to engage and to help with Loggerhead Shrike conservation, it's really about getting out and being in nature and taking the opportunity to listen and observe to see if you see a Loggerhead Shrike. Part of the reason why some of these species, not just the Loggerhead Shrike, but many species might become listed is because we simply just don't have a strong handle on the population numbers. So the more we get out there and the more we as community scientists or general public, which I call community scientists, get out there and participate and observe and share those observations, the more we can know and understand about not only where they are, but about the habitats that they're utilizing. It's really important to have those connections to nature and to be in nature, not only so our future generations will have the nature around them to enjoy for generations to come, but also for our mental health. Nature is now being prescribed by many people around the world, and even here in Saskatchewan, as a natural prescription for dealing with stress and anxiety. And that in itself is an important reason to ensure that these natural habitats coexist for the future generations to come.
A huge thank you to Nature Saskatchewan and Rebecca Magnus for taking the time to share the stories of these amazing animals with me. If you see a Loggerhead Shrike, you can report the sighting to Nature Saskatchewan on their toll-free Hoot line at 1-800-667-4668. As I learned more about Nature Saskatchewan and some of the other conservation groups located in the province, I was reminded of a quote from Margaret Mead. "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Down below, I've listed several organizations that you may be able to get involved with so that you too can make a difference. And for a little inspiration, go watch Back From The Brink at the Kramer IMAX Theatre, and then go spend some time outside with nature, by yourself or with your family and friends. Thanks for watching.
All around the world, entire species of animals are vanishing. But it's not too late to save them. This is the story of 3 remarkable successes. of animals brought back from the brink of extinction. Off the coast of California, the tiny Channel Island fox. In the mountains of southwestern China, the Yunnan golden monkey. And on tropical Christmas Island, the famous red crab. Now experience the powerful true story of how we came together to save these animals and their habitats. Join us for a journey of discovery, innovation, and success. Back from the Brink, saved from extinction. With narration by Claire Danes in IMAX and Giant Screen Cinemas.